Um, Alexander, thanks so much for joining us. You are, of course, CEO and founder of Unique Network. I'm actually not sure whether we've officially talked about our working with you yet. So I guess this is it. This is the announcement. So I think I've been teasing everybody on Twitter with the idea that we're going to be working with the NFT Parachain. There are pretenders, of course, but you guys, as people are about to learn, are by far the more advanced, both technologically and everything else, to be quite frank. We've been working with you for, is it about a month now?
Yeah, about, yeah.
Yeah.
So feels like 2 years.
I know. Hopefully in a good way. So let's talk at a high level about Polkadot parachains and why that offers a next step kind of game changer or next generation of NFTs. And then I think it'd be great to get into Unique itself. But let's start at the top. Why Polkadot? Why parachains? Why is that powerful for NFTs?
Okay, if that's the top, okay. Hi, everybody. First, I'm Alexander, as Jamie has kindly introduced me. So Polkadot is a little bit of a special bee in the blockchain space. I like to call it the true third generation because it has two things. One is it is extremely powerful technology. I mean, here you have to be technical to kind of describe it all over the place, but really serious people with serious experience in the blockchain space have created something that is very powerful across the board. But that's not my favorite part. My favorite part is the second, which is flexibility. Something that other blockchains don't really have. The way you set things up in most blockchains, you set it up and then you don't change it like, 3 EIPs a year and things like that. But you basically have one way of dealing with things and that's it. In Polkadot, you have 10 different ways to deal with any question you can ask me. I'll come up with 10 ways to do it. And which is extremely important for any user-oriented applications because they're all different. You cannot squeeze into one model and one chain. The blockchain for me is a database. You cannot fix into one database basically the financial applications and games and art and whatever. So it reflects very heavily in the on the technical level. And what Polkadot has is that flexibility, which is structural and technical at the same time. So structural, it means that Polkadot and Kusama are nothing but a relay chain. They don't do anything. They give messaging platform, but they're basically mining center. They take care of security. And then you have parachains, 100 of them or however many, to deal with specific use cases. So you don't mix the economics or anything between DeFi and NFTs, between, scaling solutions and Internet of Things types of applications and so on. So you have that structural kind of change, division between them.
Yeah, so then let's talk about how Unique specifically has been leveraging Polkadot in order to build out a whole suite of NFTs, right? And this is not conceptual, this is actually built. You've already had some pretty significant financing to get to where you are. Could you just talk us through, what you've built, the kind of layers of the stack, and kind of some of the key modules?
Okay. So indeed, we built it. We released the first testnet back in August. And then since February, we have the mainnet ready to go, ready to launch. We're waiting for Polkadot itself and Kusama to launch Parachain functionality to connect to it. It has some really powerful things. So The core of everything is what they call NFT palette, which is provides basic NFT functionality natively in the blockchain. If you develop that palette as something independent, you can take it and you can put it into another substrate chain if you like. But what it does is has all the main NFT functionality that you find today in other blockchains. So minting, sending transactions, defining NFTs and so on, but also some of the much more advanced stuff. So again, in Polkadot, you can program into blockchain whatever you want. And what we want for NFTs is lots of different things. So you want refungibles, okay? In Ethereum space, you make a DAO for that. Right? You need to make it as smart contracts, and you need to organize people for that. They need to have some UI for organizing and so on. In Unique, that refungibility is embedded inside in that NFT palette, and you can create a refungible token in like 2 or 3 clicks. That's it. You put in the name, you put in how many pieces you want. That's it.
So, for example, B20, this idea about you take an NFT and you shard it or fractionalize it. This effectively allows you to do that and then rewind it in effect, right?
3 clicks. That's it. No smart contracts, nothing. Okay, so that is the core. It has a number of functionality already inside, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But and then there's a whole roadmap of things we want to add. Then besides the NFT palette, there are important things we built also. First is the smart contract palette, which connects to it so that you can have any application level logic. Okay, just like Solidity. So when you Polkadot supports Ink, that's their smart contract language. You write in Rust, which is pretty good. Pretty tough, but pretty good. And that enables basically to create custom level applications. And then on top of that, we build a number of things that everybody's going to need. There's an Explorer that comes across all the substrate chains. As the same one. Then you have wallets. We built also a solution that's white label to mint NFTs to make there's a gallery and then a marketplace as well. So those are kind of the main infrastructural components. Okay.
So one of the things that I really like about some of the tech that you built is this idea that there are greater levels of administration, and that administration can be collaborative. So, for example, at the moment, most NFTs are controlled by an individual, and to collaborate around that with a large group of people is incredibly complex and full of risk, both from a security perspective and just error. And if we're looking to onboard large organizations, brands, franchises, enterprise with hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people that are going to have to coordinate NFTs for everything from marketing to inventory management. The current setup just doesn't allow that to happen at an operational level. So can you talk through how you've effectively built this, for want of a better word, back end to manage and coordinate NFTs through their full life cycle, right?
So it's really back end. It is in the blockchain. So it's on chain. You basically have administrative abilities to create different rights. It's right management system. So you can create, when you create a collection, now, these are kind of more advanced use cases. You need to program them and so on. We need to help you do that. But you basically can reassign ownership, can layer ownership of the collection, can transfer administrative rights separately from the ownership rights. So basically, the use cases you're talking about, they need something like this. Okay, so the current what we have in the NFT space basically is very flat, so to speak. This is what we can do, go ahead. And what I like to call our chain is, yes, we can do that chain, because we design it to be more like other technologies are in Web2, for example, where you can do different things with it. And what's also important is that is not a static kind of or fixed functionality. We built upon it every day. That keeps growing. So if we have big organization, like you said, an enterprise that wants to have an advanced kind of rights management system to access different things in collections and so on, if it's not kind of readily available, we can always build it. And we can put it back in the blockchain if needed, or can do it on backend, or can do it in smart contracts. And I can continue this way until I get to 10.
Yeah. So let's maybe just cover one point, because it should be obvious if you understand Polkadot, say, versus Ethereum, but I think it's worth highlighting. So obviously one of the challenges for creators, businesses operating in the NFT space, especially at the lower value end of that, is gas and the cost to transact.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just talk us through how that works in a parachain? And I know that you're also looking at this idea of effectively feeless transactions or sponsored transactions. So could you talk us through that as well?
So the gas in parachain setting, each parachain defines their own kind of transaction cost policy, so to speak. Which is structurally important, as I said at the beginning. You don't have to live under the rule of financial applications, which are ready to pay whatever amount is necessary for transactions, because they handle millions of dollars. Here, we design it for the NFT space, which means a lot of transactions, a lot of users. We design it and having millions of users in mind. So, for example, if we are valued at $1 billion, the transaction cost will be 1 cent. That's the kind of calculations, roughly. And then the second part of your question is much more interesting. It's something, if you can design your own blockchain in many different technologies and as a standalone thing, and you can play with the gas as well, okay? But what you cannot do in other blockchains, what Substrate and Polkadot allow you to do, is some powerful programming where you can play with economic models and make them dynamic. Blockchains today have straightforward economic model where if you want to do something, you pay transaction fee, gas, right? We did some sponsorship contracts, again, for financial applications a few years ago that inspired us to do this because the gas problem started. Well, it's not the cost of gas that's actually the problem. That scaling will handle that tomorrow or in 2 years. It will handle that. But it's the question of actually users having to have that crypto to manage transactions. That is much bigger friction, actually. In order to handle that, what we design internally is economic sponsorship model where the creator of the smart contract, of the collection, NFT collection, or the D app, can play with the economic model internally and can have, for example, a freemium game. Okay, imagine that everybody kind of plays games more or less, but you take the way that gaming works today is developers get somehow the players to download their game or whatever, they start playing it, and then after a month or two, they sell them something if they're hooked on the game, right? You cannot have that on blockchain. The only way you can avoid that is what Flow is doing really smartly, is making the first transaction a buy transaction. Okay, so they spend $50 on something, they can pay for, include the cost of the gas in that, and that's okay. But if you want to have a player play a game for a month before they have to pay, then you cannot do that. Okay, so here every application developer can do that. We have, first of all, there's a tech inside, and there is a whole program that we plan to kind of develop into very advanced kind of systems for that. But today we have a game applied there where transaction fees are free. They're sponsored by us. And then we are going to have the whole ecosystem support programs in place to help them build that out.
Great. So now let's talk a little bit about the team. And by the way, anybody who's got any questions, don't be shy. We've got a good 10 minutes left, so we might be able to answer one or two, if indeed we have the answer. So you never know. We get some good ones. But let's talk about the team, because as I said, there have been recent announcements of projects proposing that they're going to be the NFT Parachain. They've raised lots of money to build something rather than you guys who've already built it. I know you're too much of a gentleman to kind of reference any one directly, but the point is, let's talk about the state of where you guys are at. You've got a load of developers. I don't think I've ever met one team that has as many developers, which of course the scarce resource at the moment. Money's pretty cheap, but it doesn't matter how much money you've got. Nobody has enough developers. You've got hundreds of developers and tens of people who are specialists in the kind of technology that you need, both for your own technology, but also to service clients, partners, and the wider ecosystem. So could you talk us through the team, the kind of competencies that you've got, the stage that you're at now, and as you say, kind of moving into this next stage around the Parachain itself?
Yeah, thanks. So Unique Network was built bootstrapped by Ustech, which is a software development company. And indeed, we have like 350, 400 people, which is kind of gave us the advantage of having flexibility in that manner and having enough expertise to teach people what they need to learn. Okay. So we created a team. We've started with Polkadot 2 years ago in the early days, worked on infrastructure, so had time to learn because Substrate is not that easy. Rust is not easy. Substrate is not easy. It takes time to kind of wrap your head around it. Parity is great and kind of supporting everybody in that respect, and there's more and more of it, but still, yes. So we built a team that's today about 15 people that's working just on Unique Network. But what we do is, we need the JavaScript developer. We get it from other arms. We need a designer. We need a web developer. And we borrow them for a month or two. And then if they like what this is done, then we keep them. And that's basically the scaling strategy. And then you had one more question.
Parachains. And maybe how you're looking at Kusama, Parachain, as somebody highlighted earlier, you were the Hackasama winners. So maybe just talk about your relationship with Web3, how you're looking at the difference between Parachains, Polkadot, Kusama, and then specifically the Parachain auctions.
The Polkadot ecosystem is very complex. You can talk about it for a long time. And they have, Web3 Foundation is doing a fantastic job of kind of promoting and getting developers to hooked on the technology, and they're having great success in it. There's kind of a lot of reports out there about how many developers are now developing on Polkadot, and I think it's already passed Bitcoin as the second kind of largest blockchain in that respect. They have lots of programs, grants. We got like 5 grants, I think, from Web3 Foundation, second of all teams, and they have also treasuries in Kusama and Polkadot. Now, the way that the rollout of Parachains is supposed to happen, Kusama goes first in everything. They kind of, Kusama is the risky one, so it goes first. They plan to, they hope to announce to start that process pretty soon. And there's going to be Parachain auctions. So the way they work is that basically any chain that wants to become a Parachain has to bid an auction, English candle auction, I think it is, to win a spot. And that process is going to be a little bit painful because they will release one spot every 2 weeks or about that. And there's a lot of projects that want to come on board. So I suspect there's going to be competition there. We will actually wait a little bit for Par Threads to come live, which I hope is a month or two, a couple of months probably, and start as a Par Thread because it is much safer and less risky that way, and then become a Parachain when we win the auction. So we put off the pressure of becoming a Parachain by doing that. And Par Threads are basically the same thing. You just pay as you go. You don't have exclusive spot, but you park anywhere you want. that's the analogy I use. And then there's a question here that that deserves answer right away. So we, as Kusama goes, we'll go on Kusama, and then on Polkadot we'll become a Par Thread when they become available with a separate chain. Now, right now the technology is such that we need to have two chains, one for Kusama, one for Polkadot. It is, we tried to keep it one chain, but we can't. So we will split them up when Unique goes live. It will be Unique Kusama that goes live. And then Unique Polkadot will be kind of created in parallel to that, but will be frozen until we go live on Polkadot.
Got you. We've got 5 minutes left. We do have one question, but I also want to make sure you've got time to talk about you're actively now looking for partners, creators to experiment with. So I want to give you a couple of minutes to be able to kind of effectively pitch to the ecosystem for partners. We've got, over 1,600 people here right now dialed in, and I'm sure many of them will be very excited by what you're doing, solving for many of the frustrations that they've got in establishing their businesses. Maybe we try and get like 1 minute or so on this question about embedding token economics in games. Can you talk more about embedding token economics in games?
Oh, wonderful. We have actually Andy here from Xaya. He can tell you all about it. He's a specialist in that. They're doing some really cool stuff. Games, each game has their own kind of monetization today, right? Each successful game has, most importantly, monetization. They have gotten it right. If they don't do that, they don't survive. So basically, never mind how interesting game is. So the assumption here is they do it, and we help them actually execute on that. So on Unique, we have fungible tokens as well. So a game can come in, create their token, ERC20 like. It can be ERC20. We support Ethereum, so you can build on Solidity if you like. Okay, so it can be ERC20 or the substrate equivalent, and create your own economics any way you want, and basically just make a kind of agreement with us, which is easy to pay transaction fees if you like in your token. So that you have completely isolated economy if you like, and then you do it any way you want. You're a specialist in it. We are not. There are others who can, but we can find you somebody who can help you do that. But usually the gaming studios are kind of good at that. So they figure it out for themselves. We just help them realize what they want to build. That's it.
Understood. So we've got a couple of minutes left. What next for Unique Networks? What are you working on over the next couple of months?
Too many things.
I mean, I know some of it, but let's tell them what we're doing.
No, we're doing too many things. Okay, so there's a little bit of fundraising that takes a lot of time. We are so preparing all the stuff for the parachains, parathreads, technically. But most importantly, we're starting to engage with the ecosystem for people to build stuff. We have had our first punk drop the other day. That's a new term invented by Bruno Schwartz. We made, in scope of that Hakusama hackathon we won last year, we made substrapunks, a game that's kind of a tribute to original CryptoPunks. It became popular in our kind of ecosystem, very popular.
More popular than you were planning, though, right? I think you originally just put it out as a hackathon thing, and it went crazy.
Yeah. No, we didn't have any plans for it. we just made it to show to the judges who are not technical that the thing works. Okay, and then a lot of people came in and they were like, "Wow, very first NFTs on Polkadot. Let's get them," and kind of so on. It's a funny story, but yeah, we got another very cool project. Bruno is doing Canaria that has nested NFTs, where you have generations and so on. Technically cool concept. And they did a punk drop or airdrop to punk owners of for what they are doing. So we're trying to develop the ecosystem to get people to figure out how and to realize how cool the technology is and all kinds of the stuff we're doing. So we have white labeled marketplace and minting solutions, so you don't have to worry about that. You can kind of, if you have a gallery, you can start it right away. Basically, we needed an hour for that.
And of course, the very cool thing with you guys, as I said, is you've got a lot of hands on deck. So you are in the fortunate position where you can do some bespoke stuff with the right partners if they come along and help you build things out. So, so they're kind of ready and waiting, and I'm sure you're going to be bombarded with various projects coming to you, trying to unlock the value of what you're building. Alexander, thanks so much for coming on. I'm looking forward. I think in probably the next week or so, we will officially release our Why We Invested, which we always do with every project. We obviously wanted to kind of showcase you here at Diffusion before the fact, which is, we normally do it the other way around, but nevertheless, we've got you on. The cat's out the bag. Thanks for coming on, Alexander.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your attention.